Hi, come on in. In Mr. Mom from 20th Century Fox, young Michael Keaton, as a house husband, let's call him, is subject to many pressures, and they aren't all kids and vacuum cleaners. It's also a gorgeous neighbor. And her name is Joan Hampton, portrayed by Jillian, and I want to introduce her to you now. Because as Joan Hampton, you are, I guess, a suburban siren, but you're not a one-dimensional character either. Every neighborhood will have a number of single people on the block. I'm one of them, by golly.
Well, I was the local locust, I guess.
Local locust?
Yes. Well, when I looked at this script, I looked at her and I thought, well, that's not really to be the seductress in a position which is kind of where the family is a little bit torn apart at this particular time, emotionally, because the father has to go through mommy training and the mother has to go climb the corporate ladder. It's kind of not a very nice position to be in, to try to break that up. So I thought, well, how can I make this woman likable, and still be a temptress? I see her as being relatively harmless.
As a matter of fact, the only time that you're really a temptress, per se, is in the dream sequence.
In the dream sequence, which is his fantasy.
Yes.
And she also
An
lives...
understandable one, I might add.
Oh, thank you. She also has a fantasy. See, she's a divorcee. She's probably lonely. She probably has her own insecurities. And if you said boo to her, she'd probably run away, I think she gets this lust for a man who is in a pickle. And he's also a teddy bear.
That's the thing. She can respond to him not because he's Mr. Macho, but because he's a sensitive guy who's taking on some other kinds of duties. And she can see him as a sexy man in that respect, too.
Absolutely.
I like that.
And that's very attractive to her. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, the very fact that she's not a serious temptress comes, the proof of the pudding is that she has never tried to hit on him before. And they're friends. But now, all of a sudden, she sees this plight, and that brings out, I guess, the lust in her. I don't know.
I understand in your personal life with your husband there has been a similar kind of role reversal at times, and I wish you could relate now to me personal experiences that you see best reflected in the film itself. How true to life is this, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's very, very true to life. Of course, the exaggerations of vacuum cleaners chasing and gobbling up people,
To the music of Jaws.
Yes, to the music of Jaws is wonderful. But, of course, that doesn't happen. What is true is that, for instance, I think that because of the women's movement today, and prior, actually coming ahead of time, making women a little bit more encouraging them to be skilled so that if an emergency does happen, whether they're divorced or whether they have to help out in family, they can. The fact that our economy is in such a state that many people have been laid off, male and female.
He's an auto worker, for heaven's sake.
Absolutely. And it's true. This is true to life. My husband was a Chicago police sergeant in Vice. And this
is a stressful lifestyle, is it not?
It's a very stressful lifestyle. Yes. And when he decided to follow my career, because I was doing well in it, and we knew that we had to make a choice, one or the other, because you couldn't do both, because geographically you had to be in different places. Mm-hmm. He decided to go with my lifestyle, and he became my manager, he became my agent, he became my publicist, and he was my husband to boot. Now, all of a sudden, we have the professionals doing all of that, and he finds himself in a position. I'm bringing home the paycheck, and he's taking care of the house. Well, he can take care of it far better than I can.
But how well can anyone take care of the house? What I'm getting at is a term called parenting that you hear a lot now. And male and female, we have very little education about householding and bringing up kids. To me, the movie speaks to that as well. How do you feel about that personally? When you got into a family situation, did you draw upon experience, or does it all come on the job training?
I think it's on the job training, because how many of us are actually taught how to be a parent? We jump into it when we have a baby. I don't have one, but all my friends have had one, and I intend to have one. I think that you can learn so much from your own experience as a child, but at the same time, you've never been a parent yet, so you have to, it's on the job training. The film, as I saw it, I loved because it focused on responsibilities and what are the priorities, and that ultimately the family is the one singularly most important thing in your entire life, that family unit. Whether it's the wife that all of a sudden becomes the breadwinner and the husband has to do the domestic work, or whether it's the wife who traditionally has always done the domestic work and the husband goes out, I think it gives a better understanding. I think the film all of a sudden teaches us that it's not so easy either way if you're not used to it. It's a question of living by common sense on a 50-50 basis and based upon love, knowing that all of the obstacles around there, you can still make it. You can still make it. And it brings back the family into focus, which I think is really good.
And Jillian, Mr. Mom, can we talk you into telling us a bit about your career after we come back from this break?
We sure can.
Okay, hang on. We'll be right back. Well, Aunt Jillian is the most gorgeous neighbor you ever saw in Mr. Mom's, also starring Michael Keaton and Terry Garr. It's been, what, 10 years since you've been in a movie?
It's been quite some time.
What's going on? What's happened in 10 years, as if I didn't know?
TV came along, and TV in a great multitude of numbers of episodes. You know, when you're working like that and doing theater and doing nightclub work, it takes up your time. So it just came as a natural progression to go back into film after a while. I think TV brought me back into the exposure brought me back once again, I guess, into people's eyes, into the producer's eyes. Lynn Loring, the producer of the film, called me in also because of that. So that's where I've been. However, coming up soon...
Ah, a scoop?
A scoop. I'll be back on another series, working back once again, hard at it.
Of course, making a living you had for, what, 2 years, I think?
Making a living was 2 years, right? And
so what's the new series then?
Jennifer Slept Here.
Aha.
I play a ghost who got wiped out by a good humor truck.
Boy, do I wish I could pursue that, but because of time, I did want to get one more question in before we're done. You played Mae West, and you gained weight to play Mae West.
Yes.
Question, why? Mae West was a rather diminutive lady.
Well,
I talked to Walter Plunkett, her costume designer, and he told me about the fact that they constructed costumes under wire mesh for her to amplify her proportions. So.
Well, to amplify her, you mean her bust proportions, yes. However, she as a woman, even though she was a very diminutive lady in size, yes, she was almost 5 feet in size, she always looked bigger than life, she was in fact slightly stocky. She was on the stocky side. You can see that by how wide her back was, by the size of her arms. She was almost a Botticellian type of a figure at one time. She did lose weight when she came to Hollywood and they asked her to start losing weight. So she lost as much as she wanted to lose.
And all of us are terribly jealous of you for being able to lose the weight yourself. How do you do that? You take it on and you take it off?
No,
Is it that easy?
Tough. No. Anybody that says it's easy is lying. Honest to God, I tried everything. Gaining it was great. That was easy. But losing it, now I'm shaving off the last 2 or 3 pounds that I have to.
And Jillian, finally, there's a vacant house in the neighborhood where I live. If you are getting ready to move in and leave Michael Keaton's neighborhood, let me know.
I'd love to.
And Jillian, and Mr. Mom from 20th Century Fox, also starring Terry Garr and Michael Keaton.